Before you assume you already understand this dynamic, pause for a moment, because what I am about to explain will challenge everything you think you know about attraction between younger women and older men. Most men believe they lose a younger woman because of age, competition, or bad timing. That is not the truth. The truth is far more uncomfortable. You do not lose her because you are older. You lose her because you misunderstand what she was actually looking for in you. In the next few minutes, you are going to see the hidden psychological pattern that almost no one talks about. You are going to understand why she studies you instead of chasing you, why she tests you instead of praising you, why she becomes softer with one man and colder with another. And most importantly, you are going to discover the silent mistake that destroys admiration without you even noticing it. This is not surface level dating advice. This is about emotional power, psychological positioning, and the kind of internal stability that creates real desire. If you have ever felt confused by her behavior, if you have ever wondered why the connection felt strong and then suddenly distant, stay with me until the end. Because by the time this video finishes, you will not only understand her behavior, you will understand your own. And once you see it clearly, you will never approach this dynamic the same way again. Let's begin with something that most men completely misunderstand. When a younger woman truly wants an older man, she does not chase him. She does not become loud, dramatic, or obvious. She becomes observant. She becomes precise. She becomes intelligent in her attention. And if you are not aware of this, you will miss it. Because society has conditioned men to believe that desire looks like pursuit, that if she likes you, she will text constantly, flirt excessively, compete for your attention. But a woman who genuinely desires an older man is not looking to compete. She is looking to evaluate. She studies you, not your car, not your watch, not your social media image. She studies how you carry yourself in ordinary moments. She watches how you speak when you disagree with someone. She notices whether you interrupt people or allow them to finish. She observes whether your confidence is calm or performative. This is not random curiosity. It is psychological filtering. Understand this clearly. A younger woman who is attracted to an older man is not primarily attracted to age. She is attracted to what age should represent: emotional regulation, wisdom, stability, perspective. If she wanted noise and chaos, she could choose someone her own age. What she is searching for is grounding, so she watches to see if you actually embody it. When you tell a story, she is not only listening to the content, she is listening to your tone. Is there bitterness? Is there unresolved anger? Are you still emotionally fighting battles from 10 years ago? Or have you matured beyond them? She notices when something minor goes wrong: a delayed reservation, a traffic jam, a small inconvenience. She observes your reaction. Do you lose control? Do you complain excessively? Do you blame? Or do you remain composed? Because composure is the language of masculine stability. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Many older men believe their age automatically commands respect. It does not. Age without growth is simply time passed. A younger woman who wants you is not impressed by years lived. She is measuring depth developed. That is why she becomes quieter around you, more attentive, more thoughtful. It is not submission. It is assessment. She may ask you subtle questions about your past relationships, not to judge you, but to understand your patterns. Does he take responsibility? Does he blame his exes for everything? Does he speak with dignity, or does he expose private details for ego validation? She is building a psychological profile. This is what attraction looks like when it is serious. It becomes analytical. And here is where most men sabotage themselves. The moment they sense her attention, they try to impress her. They exaggerate achievements. They overshare to appear transparent. They perform strength instead of embodying it. But performance is fragile. Authenticity is stable. A younger woman who truly desires you is not looking for perfection. She is looking for consistency. She wants to see that your words align with your behavior, that your calmness is not situational, that your confidence does not collapse under pressure, because if she chooses you, she is choosing influence. She is choosing to be guided emotionally and mentally by the kind of man you are. That decision requires safety. And safety is not created through control. It is created through predictability of character. She studies whether you respect her opinions even when you disagree. She watches if you dismiss her because of her age or if you value her perspective. She pays attention to whether you try to dominate conversations or create space for dialogue. This is critical. A younger woman who genuinely wants an older man does not want a father figure. She does not want someone who constantly reminds her of the gap in experience. She wants someone who makes her feel elevated, not inferior. If you subtly belittle her immaturity, she withdraws. If you mock her lack of experience, admiration erodes. If you treat her like a project to fix instead of a partner to build with, attraction fades silently. But if you treat her with calm authority and quiet respect, something powerful happens. She relaxes. She begins to trust your presence. She opens gradually. She invests emotionally because she feels she is standing next to strength, not ego. This is why chasing destroys the dynamic. The moment you chase, you shift the power balance. You communicate uncertainty, and uncertainty from an older man feels unstable. It contradicts the very reason she was drawn to you. Let me say this clearly. If she is studying you, it means she sees potential. Indifference does not analyze, desire does. But analysis can turn into rejection if what she discovers does not match the image. That is why self-development is not optional. It is foundational. You cannot fake depth. You cannot imitate emotional discipline. You either have it or you don't. So instead of trying to decode her every move, focus on becoming the man she hopes you are. Strengthen your emotional regulation. Refine your communication. Remove bitterness from your narrative. Lead with composure, not intimidation. Because when a younger woman truly wants you, she is not asking, can he provide? She is asking, can he lead emotionally? Can he remain steady when I am not? Can I admire him long term? And admiration is built through observation. She is watching the small moments, the in-between reactions, the subtle behaviors you think do not matter. They matter the most. So the next time you feel a younger woman becoming more attentive, more curious, more observant, do not mistake it for distance. Do not panic. Do not perform. Stay grounded. Let her observe the real you, the disciplined you, the composed you, the man who does not need to prove his value because he lives it daily. Because when she studies you and finds stability, respect, and emotional strength, attraction deepens naturally. And here is what I want you to reflect on. If she is watching you closely, the real question is not whether she wants you. The real question is whether you are living in a way that deserves to be chosen. Now let us go deeper, because this is where most men lose the connection without even realizing it. When a younger woman truly wants an older man, her tests are not childish. They are emotional. And if you misunderstand that, you will respond incorrectly. You see, people often talk about women playing games, but there is a difference between manipulation and evaluation. A woman who is not serious may play games to entertain herself. A woman who is serious will test to protect herself. There is maturity in that. When a younger woman is attracted to an older man, she is aware of the power dynamic. She knows he has more life experience. She knows he has likely navigated more relationships. She understands that emotionally, he should be ahead of her. So before she invests deeply, she needs evidence that this advantage will not be used against her. That is where the tests begin. She may disagree with you on something small, not to win, but to observe. If her opinion challenges yours, do you become dismissive? Do you shut her down with authority? Do you subtly imply that her youth makes her perspective invalid? Or do you remain calm, curious, and open? Because emotional strength is revealed most clearly in moments of disagreement. She might delay replying to your message, not as a tactic to create anxiety, but to see if you can handle space. If you immediately double text, question her interest, or become passive aggressive, you communicate insecurity. And insecurity in an older man feels unstable. Remember, she is looking for grounding. She might express a boundary. She might say she is not comfortable with something. She might ask for time. And in that moment, she is observing whether you respect autonomy or attempt control. This is not about dominance. This is about emotional leadership. An older man who reacts impulsively to these moments reveals that his maturity is superficial. Age without emotional regulation is simply delayed adolescence, and a younger woman who senses that will retreat immediately. The irony is powerful. The very moment you interpret as threats are actually opportunities. When she disagrees with you, she is giving you the chance to demonstrate composure. When she takes space, she is giving you the chance to demonstrate security. When she sets a boundary, she is giving you the chance to demonstrate respect. These are not traps, they are mirrors, and what they reflect determines whether attraction grows or collapses. Many older men make a critical mistake here. They interpret her emotional waves as immaturity. They judge her sensitivity. They say things like, "You're overthinking," or "you being dramatic." But that response invalidates her internal world. What she is truly asking is this: can you handle my emotions without being controlled by them? She does not expect you to solve every feeling. She expects you to remain steady when feelings fluctuate. If she becomes emotional and you escalate, the dynamic becomes chaotic. If she becomes emotional and you withdraw completely, the dynamic becomes cold. But if she becomes emotional and you remain centered, something transformative happens. She feels safe, and safety is the foundation of attraction. Let us speak psychologically for a moment. Emotional tests are subconscious alignment checks. She is aligning your behavior with the role you represent in her mind. An older man symbolizes protection, wisdom, stability. If your reactions contradict that symbol, cognitive dissonance occurs. Attraction weakens. This is why contract. Oh, never works. If she senses that you are trying to dominate instead of lead, she resists. If she senses that you are threatened by her independence, she distances herself. If she senses jealousy without cause, admiration erodes. Because what she truly wants is not authority over her. She wants authority over yourself. Self-control is the highest form of power. Think about this carefully. When she delays a response and you remain unbothered, you communicate abundance. When she challenges your view and you listen without defensiveness, you communicate confidence. When she sets a boundary and you respect it without resentment, you communicate strength. Strength is quiet, and quiet strength is magnetic. The reason emotional tests feel uncomfortable is because they expose insecurity. If you are internally unsettled, you will interpret everything as a threat. But if you are grounded, you will interpret it as information. Instead of asking, "Why is she doing this to me?" ask, "What is this moment allowing me to demonstrate?" Every interaction becomes a reflection of your emotional discipline and understand something deeper. She is not looking for perfection. She is looking for predictability. She wants to know that your calmness is not conditional, that it does not disappear the moment she becomes expressive, that your leadership does not turn into control when you feel uncertain. Because long-term attraction is built on trust and emotional consistency. If you pass these silent evaluations, something shifts. She relaxes. The testing decreases, the dynamic becomes smoother. Why? Because she has gathered enough evidence that you are stable. But if you fail repeatedly, she will not announce her departure. She will simply detach emotionally. The warmth fades, the curiosity decreases, and you will feel confused, wondering what changed. What changed is her perceptive. Honor your strength, so the next time you sense resistance, challenge, or space, do not panic, do not react impulsively. Pause, breathe, respond intentionally. Let your reaction reflect the man you claim to be, because the tests are not designed to break you, they are designed to reveal you. And the man who understands this does not fear them, he welcomes them. He sees them as invitations to embody maturity rather than demand it. Here is what I want you to remember. You cannot control her emotions, but you can control your response. And your response is the only thing she is truly measuring. So ask yourself honestly, when pressure appears, do you react like a boy defending his ego, or do you respond like a man secure in his identity? Because in the end, the difference between attraction and rejection is not how she feels in the moment. It is how you handle the moment when she feels. Now let us address something that is deeply misunderstood, and this is where emotional intelligence separates a man from a boy. A younger woman softens around strength, but she hardens around ego. That distinction is everything. When she truly desires an older man, she is not looking for domination. She is looking for stability. She is looking for a presence that allows her to relax into her femininity without feeling overpowered or diminished laugh. Softness in a woman is not weakness. It is a response. It is a reaction to feeling safe. If she feels emotionally protected, she becomes more open. She laughs more freely. She shares more vulnerably. She expresses affection without calculating the risk. She allows herself to admire you openly. But this softness does not appear automatically. It is earned through your composure. If your confidence is real, she feels it. Real confidence does not need to announce itself. It does not interrupt. It does not compete. It does not correct. Every minor mistake she makes, it does not constantly assert superiority. Real confidence listens to remain capable, sighs at disagreement instead of escalating it. Real confidence does not feel threatened by her independence or her intelligence. When she senses that kind of grounded presence, her guard lowers. She does not feel the need to prove herself. She does not feel the need to challenge your authority. She does not feel the need to protect her ego, which she softens. But the moment ego enters the dynamic, everything shifts. Ego is loud. Ego needs validation. Ego cannot tolerate being questioned. Ego confuses leadership with control. If she senses that you need to be right all the time, she becomes cautious. If she senses that you interpret her curiosity as disrespect, she becomes reserved. If she senses that you subtly belittle her because she is younger, she begins to emotionally withdraw because ego does not feel safe. An older man operating from ego is unpredictable. His mood depends on admiration. His confidence depends on compliance. His authority depends on submission. And that creates tension. A younger woman who initially admired you will start protecting herself. She will respond more logically and less emotionally. She will reduce vulnerability. She will mirror your hardness. And here is the painful truth. Many men misinterpret this shift as her losing interest, but what often happens is that she is responding to your insecurity. Ego is often disguised insecurity. When you correct her in a condescending tone, that is not leadership. That is insecurity. When you feel threatened by her social life, that is not protectiveness. That is insecurity. When you mock her immaturity instead of guiding her calmly, that is not wisdom. That is insecurity wearing a mask. Strength is calm. Ego is reactive. And women feel the difference immediately. You must understand that femininity flourishes in an environment of emotional steadiness. When she feels that you are internally stable, she does not need to challenge you. She does not need to test you constantly. She does not need to guard her autonomy aggressively. She can relax. If she feels she must constantly defend her perspective, she becomes mentally alert instead of emotionally connected. If she feels she must walk carefully around your pride, she becomes strategic instead of sincere. And that destroys depth. Now, consider this from a philosophical perspective. Power that needs to assert itself is fragile. Power that simply exists is unshakable. If you constantly remind her that you are older, more experienced, more knowledgeable, you are trying to force authority. But if you embody wisdom naturally, she will recognize it without being told. The most attractive older men are not the ones who emphasize the age gap. They minimize it. They make it irrelevant by being emotionally youthful in energy, but mature in judgment. That balance is rare, and rarity is magnetic. If she senses that your maturity comes with humility, she leans in. If she senses that your experience comes with compassion, she opens up. If she senses that your leadership comes with emotional control, she trusts you. Trust is the bridge to softness, and softness is not submission. It is alignment. When she aligns with you, she stops resisting. She stops questioning your stability. She begins investing more deeply. She protects the dynamic because she values it. But alignment cannot be forced. It grows from respect. Respect grows from emotional consistency. So the question becomes very simple. Are you leading with strength or are you reacting from ego? When she expresses emotion, do you create space or create pressure? When she disagrees, do you explore or dismiss? When she makes a mistake, do you guide or humiliate? These small interactions determine whether she becomes more feminine or more defensive around you. And here is something critical to reflect on. A woman's hardness is often a response to feeling unsafe. Her sharp tone, her emotional distance, her resistance may not be her personality. It may be her protection mechanism. If you remove the threat of ego, protection is no longer necessary. You do not have to demand softness. You cultivate it by being grounded. You do not have to request admiration. You earn it by embodying discipline. You do not have to control the dynamic. You stabilize it through self-control. That is leadership. So instead of asking why she seems distant, ask whether your energy feels heavy or calm. Instead of demanding respect, demonstrate it in how you speak and listen. Instead of asserting dominance, strengthen your internal discipline, because the truth is simple and profound. A younger woman will soften naturally when she feels she is standing next to strength. but she will armor herself instantly when she senses ego. And in the end, the quality of her openness will always reflect the quality of your emotional control. So reflect honestly. Are you creating an environment where softness can exist, or are you unconsciously building walls with your pride? Kaya, because the man who masters his ego does not chase softness, he inspires it. Now we arrive at something even more fragile, even more powerful than attraction itself, admiration. If a younger woman truly wants an older man, admiration is at the core of that desire, not attention, not convenience, not validation, admiration. And admiration is not automatic. It is earned and it is extremely delicate. Understand this carefully. A younger woman who chooses an older man is not just choosing a partner, she is choosing a direction. She is choosing someone whose mindset, lifestyle, and emotional structure will influence her growth. That is not a small decision. That is psychological investment. When she admires you, she looks at you with respect. She values your perspective. She trusts your judgment. She feels proud standing next to you. There is a subtle sense of security in knowing that you see further than she does, that you respond wiser than she might, that you carry experience without bitterness. But admiration can collapse very quickly. The moment your behavior contradicts the image she built in her mind, doubt begins. If you speak about discipline but lack self-control, doubt begins. If you speak about loyalty but entertain attention carelessly, doubt begins. If you speak about maturity but react emotionally under pressure, doubt begins. Admiration requires alignment between words and actions. And here is what many men fail to understand. Admiration is not about perfection. It is about integrity. She does not expect you to never make mistakes. She expects you to take responsibility when you do. She expects self-awareness. She expects growth. When you refuse accountability, admiration weakens. When you blame circumstances for every failure, admiration weakens. When you become defensive instead of reflective, admiration weakens. Because admiration is built on respect, and respect cannot survive ego. Let us go deeper psychologically. Younger women are often surrounded by men their own age who are impulsive, reactive, emotionally inconsistent. When she turns her attention toward an older man, she is seeking contrast. She is seeking calm in place of chaos. She is seeking foresight instead of impulsivity. If you replicate the same emotional instability she sees everywhere else, the age difference becomes meaningless. This is why emotional discipline is not optional for you. It is the foundation of the dynamic. When she sees you handle stress with composure, admiration grows. When she sees you navigate conflict without humiliation or aggression, admiration grows. When she sees you remain steady when she is uncertain, admiration deepens. But if she sees insecurity, jealousy without evidence, constant suspicion, or passive aggression, something shifts inside her. She may not argue. She may not confront. She may not even explain. She will simply feel less inspired. And inspiration is what keeps attraction alive long term. A woman can feel chemistry with many men, but admiration is rare. Admiration makes her want to protect the connection. It makes her want to invest. It makes her want to support your vision instead of compete with it. Without admiration, attraction becomes temporary. This is why you must protect your character more than your ego. If you question her loyalty without reason, you communicate fear. If you compete with her youth instead of appreciating it, you communicate insecurity. If you mock her in public to assert dominance, you communicate weakness, and each of those moments chips away at admiration. Here is the philosophical truth. people admire what they aspire to. If she sees in you qualities she hopes to develop, discipline, emotional control, clarity, confidence, she will naturally respect you. But if she sees unresolved anger, impulsive reactions, or a need for constant validation, she will not aspire to that. She will distance herself from it. An older man's greatest advantage is perspective. You have lived through phases she has not yet experienced. You have seen consequences unfold. You understand the long game. But if you use that perspective to belittle rather than guide, you lose the very thing that made you attractive. Guidance requires humility. Leadership requires empathy. Wisdom requires patience, and admiration thrives in the presence of all three. Let me be clear about something important. When admiration fades, it rarely returns easily. Once she stops looking up to you, she begins evaluating you as equal or lower in emotional discipline. At that point, the dynamic changes permanently, so your responsibility is not to control her feelings. Your responsibility is to embody qualities worthy of admiration consistently. Consistency is power. You cannot behave with strength one day and insecurity the next. You cannot demand respect while neglecting self-discipline. You cannot preach maturity while engaging in emotional games. Your life must reflect your words, and that is where most men struggle. It is easier to speak about standards than to live them. It is easier to demand loyalty than to demonstrate integrity. But admiration is built silently through observation. She watches how you treat people who cannot benefit you. She watches how you respond when plans fail. She watches whether your mood controls the room or whether you control your mood. These small details determine whether admiration strengthens or erodes. If you want long-term attraction from a younger woman, focus less on impressing her and more on inspiring her. Inspiration comes from discipline. It comes from vision. It comes from a man who knows who he is and does not compromise that identity for temporary validation. Ask yourself honestly, if she mirrored your emotional habits, would you respect them? If she handled stress the way you do, would you admire it? If she reacted to disagreement the way you react, would you feel safe? Because the standard you set becomes the standard you receive. So protect your character, refine your reactions, remove insecurity from your behavior, strengthen your self-awareness. Do not let temporary emotions damage long-term respect. In the end, admiration is not sustained by charm. It is sustained by consistency of strength. And the man who understands this does not demand to be looked up to. He lives in a way that makes it inevitable. So reflect deeply. Are you acting in ways that increase admiration every day, or are you slowly eroding it without realizing? Because once admiration disappears, attraction follows quietly behind it. Now we come to the foundation that holds everything together. It is not your age that attracts her. It is your frame. And if you misunderstand this, you will constantly feel insecure in the dynamic. Many older men assume that the number of years they have lived is their greatest advantage. They believe age itself creates authority, but age without emotional structure is meaningless. What truly draws a younger woman toward an older man is his psychological frame. Your frame is your internal stability. It is how you see yourself. It is how you interpret events. It is how firmly you stand in your identity, regardless of external pressure. When your frame is strong, you do not bend every time she tests you. You do not panic when she becomes distant. You do not over-celebrate when she gives attention. You remain centered. And that centered presence is magnetic. A strong frame means you do not need constant reassurance. You do not need to monitor her every move. You do not need to compete with men her age. You are not threatened by her social media. You are not shaken by her independence. Because your confidence is internal, not situational. Understand something deeply. Younger women are used to emotional volatility from men their own age. They are used to mood swings, impulsive reactions, jealousy disguised as passion. When they encounter an older man with a stable frame, it feels different, it feels calm, it feels secure. That different C is powerful. But if you begin questioning her loyalty without reason, if you become overly sensitive to her tone, if you react dramatically to small changes in behavior, your frame cracks. And once it cracks, attraction weakens. Because what she was drawn to was not your experience alone. It was your steadiness. Frame is revealed under pressure. When she takes time to reply and you remain composed, your frame holds. When she disagrees and you listen without feeling attacked, your frame holds. When she expresses emotion and you stay grounded instead of defensive, your frame strengthens. This is emotional leadership. Leadership does not mean controlling her behavior. It means controlling your response. You cannot demand respect if your mood shifts with every external trigger. You cannot expect alignment if your sense of self depends on her validation. A man with a strong frame understands that attraction is not maintained through control. It is maintained through consistency of character. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds emotional safety, and safety allows her to invest deeply. Now let us go even deeper. When your frame is solid, you do not rush the process. You allow connection to unfold naturally. You do not chase. You do not pressure. You do not attempt to accelerate intimacy to secure her commitment. You understand that genuine alignment takes time. Patience is a sign of abundance. Desperation is a sign of scarcity. If you feel urgency to lock her down quickly, that signals insecurity. If you feel calm about the pace, that signals confidence. She feels this difference immediately. A younger woman who desires an older man wants to feel guided, not managed. She wants to feel inspired, not restricted. She wants to feel chosen, not possessed. Possession comes from fear. Guidance comes from strength. And strength does not shout. It does not monitor. It does not interrogate. It observes. It assesses. It responds intentionally. If she senses that you trust yourself, she begins to trust you. If she senses that you are comfortable with who you are, she becomes comfortable around you. If she senses that you are not competing with her youth, but appreciating it, she relaxes into the connection. This is why your mindset matters more than your material success. You can have resources, status, experience, but if your internal frame is unstable, none of that sustains attraction. On the other hand, a man with moderate success but powerful emotional stability creates lasting impact because stability is rare and rarity is valuable. Ask yourself honestly, when something challenges you, do you react from emotion or respond from intention? When she expresses independence, do you celebrate it or feel threatened by it? When she needs reassurance, do you provide it calmly or resentfully? Your answers reveal the strength of your frame. If your identity depends on controlling outcomes, you will constantly feel anxious. But if your identity is rooted in self-respect and discipline, you will remain steady regardless of fluctuations. That steadiness allows her to lean into you. And here is something crucial. A strong frame does not mean emotional coldness. It does not mean indifference. It means grounded warmth. It means being present without being consumed. It means caring without clinging. There is a difference between emotional availability and emotional dependence. Emotional availability says, I am here, stable, supportive. Emotional dependence says, I need you to behave a certain way so I can feel secure. She is drawn to the first. She withdraws from the second. When you cultivate a powerful frame, you stop trying to control her perception. You focus on refining your character. You strengthen your discipline. You sharpen your communication. You elevate your emotional regulation. And as you elevate internally, the dynamic elevates naturally. Because attraction responds to energy before it responds to logic. If your energy is grounded, calm, self assured, she feels it. If your energy is restless, suspicious, reactive, she feels that too. So the real work is internal. Build habits that strengthen your discipline, reflect on your triggers, develop emotional awareness, remove insecurity at its root instead of masking it with dominance. The man who wins long term is not the loudest. He is the most stable, and stability cannot be faked. In the end, your age will not keep her. Your money will not keep her. Even your charm will not keep her. Your frame will. If everything external disappeared tomorrow, would your internal structure still stand strong? Because the younger woman who truly wants you is not choosing your years. She is choosing your strength. And strength is not proven by control. It is proven by calm, unwavering self-mastery.